is emotional abuse, and I've spoken a little bit about that. When you have people who have gone through abuse for a while, and so it's begun to impact the way they feel about themselves and the way they feel about other people. It's the emotional impact. So if for children who have gone through different types of abuse, some of the emotional impact we would see are depression, because they don't feel worthy. And so you realize that they always look emotionally downcast. They are always sitting in a corner. They don't want to interact with people. There's a lot of anxiety in their system, because anytime there's an opportunity, they want to try, but they are worried because what if I don't do well? What if I fail? And then it gives evidence to what people were saying about me, that I'll never succeed at anything I do. There's a lot of fear inside their hearts, because everybody has said I'll not do well. Everybody has said I'll not succeed. What makes me feel that? What evidence do I have to think that I would be able to bypass everything they've said and succeed at whatever it is I'm aspiring to? It's really sad that sometimes there's an opportunity and people can go for that opportunity, but because of what they've been told, they wouldn't even want to put in an application. You can have somebody who has been told, you are not beautiful, nobody would like you, and there's an opportunity to go to school. The criteria have got nothing to do with your physical appearance, but because of what they've been told, they don't want to put in that application to see if they would get that scholarship or they would get that opportunity. This shows that the impact is not just limited to the target, or it's not just limited to the particular area, but it flows into other areas of their life as well. Then we can talk about the psychological impact. Trauma is a key psychological impact of abuse, and trauma is a bit different from emotional, the emotional impact. When we talk about trauma, it has got to do with a more deep-seated experience where you are sometimes reliving what you've gone through. You are sometimes having nightmares about the things that you've experienced. It's become like a wound on you that is not getting healed. And so it's like every time you go through something else, that wound is getting deepened. Somebody physically abused you as you were growing up. You felt that it was because you were not liked, and so that caused some form of trauma. Then as you are growing up, you are having experiences where, because you don't meet certain criteria, you are not being picked, and it goes to reinforce the trauma that you had. And in your mind, you're like, maybe I actually deserve the abuse that I was given, because I actually don't deserve any good thing in my life. Then we can talk about behavioral impacts of abuse. Sometimes we have some children who we call stubborn children, who may not necessarily be stubborn because they want to be stubborn, but what they are doing is evidence of something that has gone on internally. So you have a child who is almost always angry with everyone, and you're wondering, why are you always fighting? Why are you always shouting at people? Chances are they have been abused, and they don't know how to vocalize what they've gone through, and so that is their outlet. You can have some children who would sit in class and they are not paying attention to anything. You are wondering why you look like your track record in the past shows that you are intelligent, so what is happening to you? Why are you not paying attention? Why are you not writing notes? Why are you not doing your homework? Chances are there may be something going on at home, and that is how they are letting it out. Now, when we talk about the spiritual impact, there are some children who have gone through abuse, and so because of that, they don't want to have anything to do with God anymore. If there is a God, why did he sit down and let somebody come and do this to me? Why didn't he take the person away when I called him for help? And sometimes they look at the person who is doing that to them, and the people are religious leaders. So if somebody is serving this God and the person is doing this to me, then I don't want to have anything to do with that God. it's refreshing, though, to see that in spite of that, there are some people who have been through abuse and have found solace in the presence of God. They found healing in the presence of God. They found redemption through the love of God. And so, yes, sometimes abuse makes people go away from God, but God in his mercy knows how to draw people back to himself after they've gone through that abuse. After speaking about the impact of abuse and the kind of things that we would consider abuse, as a parent, as an adult in a child's life, how would you or how should you respond to abuse? Let me preface this by saying that there have been some studies that explore why children who grow up in their faith at a certain age go away from their faith. And the findings show that even though they were, for many of those who started in church but found their way out, it's because they didn't have a loving, caring adult in their lives. And so as church members, you may not be the person who is abusing a child, but you may be the ray of sunshine in a child's life. For somebody who is going through abuse, you may be the person who gives them hope to continue going along. And so this is not to say that you are abusing your children, and so this is how to stop abusing them. If you are, please stop. But if you are not, and you know a child who is being abused, these are some of the things you can do to protect them, to make them feel loved, to make them feel seen, to make them feel cared for. If they have several adults in their life, or sometimes abuse is not only from adults, sometimes it's even from their fellow children. So if you have a child who is being abused, and the person has one or two adults who are present in their lives, who are showing them care, it might be all they need to come out of that. So how do you respond? For one, be self-aware. Know the things that you have experienced growing up, and don't use that as a template for justifying every other thing that people go through. If somebody is being abused, you cannot say that I experienced worse, you will be fine. No. The child is going through something now, and it needs to be addressed. You think you are fine, but actually, you are not fine. There are a lot of ideologies, perceptions, attitudes you have that can be traced to the abuse you went through. You've gotten used to it. You are functional, but you are not okay. And it's important to be aware of the fact that because of the abuse you went through, you may not be okay. And the fact that you were abused doesn't mean that other people should also be abused. So be self-aware and don't use your life's experience as a yardstick for measuring what other people should experience. Then listen to what they are saying, and if possible, protect them. Sometimes children are afraid to speak up because nobody will believe me if I talk. Nobody will protect me if I talk. I would rather get into trouble for speaking up. Like our sister mentioned when she was talking about what abuse is, sometimes you are being abused and you go and talk to somebody, and the person that you went to talk to will go and report you to the very person who is abusing you. It means that day more trouble for you. So if somebody comes to you saying that my mother is doing this to me, your next course of action should not be, oh, your child said this. That is danger waiting to happen. You might need to look for other avenues of how you can protect the child. Sometimes it is asking the child, apart from your mother, is there anybody who can protect you in that space? Do you have any adult in your life that your mother listens to, that your father listens to? Is there any teacher in your school that I can make aware of what is going on in your life? And then don't justify or make excuses for the abuse that the child is experiencing. Don't say things like, oh, as for this one, it is normal. We all went through it. You went through it, yes, but it's not normal. Don't say things like, oh, maybe they were angry. They may have been angry, yes, but it is not a justification for the abuse that the child is experiencing. I can understand where it's coming from. Sometimes you feel the child is agitated, and so you want to calm the child down. Your attempt to calm the child down should not be to justify the abuse they are going through. You can give other words of encouragement. I'm sorry you are going through this, but that doesn't have to be the totality of your life. You can move past it and do other things with your life. And then set a good example as well. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes people don't want to have anything to do with God because they are seeing people who claim to serve God abusing other people. One way of dealing with abuse is to make sure that you yourself as an individual, you are not abusive. If you have to do some work on yourself, do the work on yourself. If you have to check the way you speak to people, the kind of words that you use, the way you behave towards them, please check it so that you don't interact with children in a way that makes them feel that abuse is normal. It really isn't. The impact is so huge. Something that was said once or twice can have an impact that lasts 10 years, and you can spend a long time undoing that. Setting a good example not only lets the child know that what is happening is not normal, it also gives them something to look up to. There are times when I'm speaking to people who have been abused, and they have a certain attitude towards a certain gender. It could be somebody who has been abused by their father and so they don't like men, or somebody who has been abused by their mother or an aunt and so they don't like women. And you are trying to find out, do you have any other women in your life, or do you have any other men in your life who have good characters that you can emulate or that you can look up to? And out of maybe 15 women that they know, only 2 of them have good characters. And it takes a while for them to identify those 2. So set a good example for people so that when people are going through abuse or when they are coming out of abuse, they have a good template to look at. In offering social support, one of the things that I ask the students I interact with is, do you have anybody in church that you can look up to, anybody that you can relate with, anybody that you can go to if you have an issue? And it saddens me that sometimes they can't find 5 people in church that they can look up to. The church is supposed to be a place of healing. If the world is treating them unfairly, when they come to church, they should be able to find a safe space, people who would let them experience the love of God. Other ways to respond is to get them professional help. There's only so much you can do as an individual. Your encouragement can only go this far. Sometimes the impact is so far-reaching that it will take the help of a professional to help them to undo all the damage that has been done to them and help them to learn new things. Pastoral help is good, but sometimes the pastors need certain skills they may not have. And so, yes, if you have people here who are trained mental health professionals that can supplement the biblical help with mental help, that is excellent. If not, you can provide the spiritual biblical help here and encourage them to seek professional help elsewhere from trained professionals. If you are wondering where can we find trained professionals, the major hospitals all have psychologists at post. Kolebu 37, Ridge Hospital, Tema General Hospital, the Legon Hospital, and then there are some private facilities around as well. Sometimes, if the abuse is ongoing, you might want to separate the victim from the perpetrator. I won't say remove the child from the situation, because sometimes it's the perpetrator rather that you have to remove from the situation. In instances where you your spouse, your children are living in the house, and you have a nephew coming to visit or an auntie coming to visit, and that aunt is the one doing the abuse, I cannot say move the child. Get that family member out of the house so that the child is safe. And then assure of your presence and your support as well. And this, sometimes it's important that it even comes before the abuse starts. There are some children who have gone through abuse, and the abuse lasted for so long because when it started, they didn't have anyone they felt they could talk to. They didn't feel like their parents or the adults in their lives would listen to them. And so they endured the abuse for a while. But if you have healthy relationships with the children around you, they feel safe talking to you about anything. When the abuse is about starting, they can see it and make reports. Now, for the children here, how will you identify if somebody is abusing you? If anybody is touching you inappropriately and telling you, don't tell mommy or don't tell daddy, it is not something that you should tolerate. You should never keep any secrets from your parents. If anybody is threatening you, threatening to kill you, threatening to harm you, threatening to kill your parents, if you report, they are telling lies. They can't do anything to you. So always report if anybody is doing anything to you that makes you feel uncomfortable. And for the parents here, when your children come to you with reports, even if in your mind you know that you will take an action, I know that I've said this already, but I'll say it again. Please avoid the temptation of downplaying what your child is saying to your child. If your child comes to tell you that this uncle did this to me, don't say, oh, he was only playing with you. It creates the impression that it is okay and it is not a big deal. But sometimes it actually is a big deal. You in your mind might say that I'm going to move this uncle or this auntie out of the house. But what you've communicated to your child is that it is okay. And so the next time they find themselves in such a situation, it wouldn't even occur to them to remove themselves or to report to you again because you've told them it is okay. I've already spoken about physical abuse, so I won't go that much into it. And I've already spoken about verbal abuse as well. But I'll touch on the verbal abuse again and say that sometimes, in all honesty and sincerity, your intention is not to abuse anyone. It's just your niece or your nephew or your child that you are playing with. You don't have any ill intention. But words carry power. Words carry weight. We are supposed to build people up with our words. And so if the impact of your words, if it has the potential to tear people down, don't even joke with it. Let everything that proceeds out of your mouth be wholesome. Let it offer encouragement. There's something called an internal dialogue. We all have conversations with ourselves from time to time. You are sitting down and thoughts are running through your mind. For many people, especially in their early adulthood and childhood, the internal dialogue is shaped by the voices of other people. And so you may be saying something in jest, but it's inside a child's head or it's inside the head of a young adult that this is what will come out of my life. This is what I would be able to achieve. If you have the opportunity to speak into a child's life, let it be words of encouragement. Never should there be a situation where somebody is feeling discouraged and their discouragement is coming from the things that you said to them. And so in conclusion, what I'll say is that abuse is real and the impact is far-reaching. I'm glad that the church is speaking about abuse. Let's not cover it up, even as an attempt to protect the child. Let us address it. Let us offer them the help that they need. And let us also try as much as possible not to be the perpetrators of the abuse, and to be a place that if they are going through some form of abuse and they need help, or they need a solution, or they need somebody to protect them, they can quickly run to us and find the help that they need. Thank you very much for your attention, and the floor is open for questions if you have any. Any questions for me?
Please, I want to know how you can step in to help a child that you know is going through abuse without overstepping or making the parent feel like they are not doing well by their children. You know, sometimes you might see a child going through something, and I think we as mothers, one of the worst things anyone can make you feel is you are not doing well by your child. So how can you approach, or help the child in a way? Because I've had a chance of meeting a child like that, and I felt handicapped because I felt, okay, maybe I might not say it well by the parents, maybe because I saw this little girl just depreciating. I know her like a year ago. She was this, big, I like big kids. So anytime I see a child who is, plumpy, I just get drawn to them. So I saw this girl losing weight. And the next time I saw her, she's actually in my daughter's school. I saw her, she had really thick, long hair. And I said, what happened to your hair? It was cut off. She said, oh, my mom says my hair is too much and she doesn't have time to sit and wait for me at the salon, so she cut it off. And I said, okay, that's a parent's choice. The other time I saw her, they were supposed to be in uniform. She was in house attire. And I asked her, oh, how come you're not in uniform? She said, my mom says she didn't have time to wash my stuff. So I have to wear, a home attire. Okay, fine, it's another woman's thing. I don't want to interfere. But the one that really bothered me a lot was I was going to pick my child, and as soon as she saw me, she ran to me, said, Auntie, drop me home. And I said, why should I drop you home? I mean, someone will come and pick you. And as I was talking to her, a man on a motorbike came. And he said, this man is coming to pick me. I'm scared of the motorbike, but now my mommy says I should sit on the motorbike to drop me home. And the man was looking at me, and I was looking at the child, and I was torn, like, I wouldn't let my child sit on the motorbike. So I asked her, who is this man? She said, well, it's my mom's new husband. She's been forcing me to call him daddy, but I don't know this man. And because anything the man says, that's what my mother does. So now she says, it's too much money putting me in a taxi to school, so now he will pick me on his motorbike. And I felt there's this feeling like I don't know how to help this child without overstepping. And apparently she left the school, and the next time I saw her, I cried. And this is a mother. It's not like she's staying with somebody, she's been moved to maybe a new life setting with a new father, whatever is going on in the house. This girl doesn't have a say. So what I want to know is, unfortunately, I couldn't help that child at that time because I didn't know what to do. I felt I would overstep. So I want to know, when you see stuff like this, how do you help without feeling that you are putting yourself where you are not supposed to put yourself? Thank you.
That's sad. That's really sad. And it's even sadder that because you don't have a personal relationship with the mother, there's only so much you can do. If you had a personal relationship with the mother, I would say that if the mother is your friend, there are certain conversations you can have with a friend who you may not even be talking, like you may not tell her, do this with your child, but the kind of conversations you have with her might draw her attention to certain things she is doing that she needs to stop doing. Most of the abuse that I've seen in my consulting room has come from parents. About 95% of the abuse that I see in my consulting room comes from parents. And you can't move the child out of the house. you can't go and adopt the child. You can't go and tell the child that, or you can't go and tell the mother, bring your child and let me take care of her. The difficulty here is that she's making her own decisions, and she might not even be aware of the impact of the decisions that she's making. If the child were still in your daughter's school, what I would have said was, if you could, put that child under your wings to some extent. In times when you see the child in school, let her feel loved, let her feel seen. If there was anything criminal happening, then you could have taken it up to make a report. I am not too sure what the legal opportunities you have available are. Nothing physically has been done to the child yet. You are right. There are certain things you might do, and it's from the goodness of your heart, but genuinely, you would be overstepping. If there was a way that you could connect with the mother, I mean, now that she has left the school, but at the time, if there was a way that you could connect with the mother to befriend her, just so sometimes some correction comes not from you directly telling someone, but when they see the way you do things, it makes them reflect on how they are doing their own things, and they process it. They do things differently. She may be going through her own issues, and she's found someone who is looking after her, and so her hands are tied to some extent, and so whatever he says is what will go. I really do wish that there was a way to reach out to the child, but unfortunately, as of now, there isn't any. Maybe you can pray for them. Pray for the mom that through some miraculous means, God would send wisdom her way to let her see what is happening and the impact it's having on her child. Pray for the child as well, that in the midst of everything she's going through, God would put people in her path to protect her every time, so that you were that protection in the school maybe at the time. Now that she's gone to a different school, maybe God can provide another source of protection there, so that if somebody is going to do something to her, she has somebody outside the home that she can run to and find solace in. You may not be able to do anything actively because the child is not with you currently, but God in his wisdom would know how to protect her wherever she is. Yeah.
So for you that you consult, and most of these issues are for parents, just that we've not had a lot of education on what the Department of Social Welfare does. So when you have cases like this, that you think that the safety of the child is a concern, you are supposed to put in a referral to whichever Department of Social Welfare is within the jurisdiction that you are working, and they will do proper investigation. So they will go on to do social inquiry reports and all of that. And the law actually mandates the Department of Social Welfare to give children in such situations temporary shelter whilst the investigations are ongoing. And where there are criminal cases, the police will come in. I have personally worked on cases like that. People have reported to my organization. So we are into human trafficking cases. But people have reported to our organization a number of child protection concerns, and then we will refer to the Department of Social Welfare, and then they will follow up with whatever necessary investigations that needs to be done. To you, you could have spoken to the school authority, and then if they are bringing the mother in and saying that these are observations, I'm sure that the mother would have taken that more seriously. Yes, so those are just the things I wanted to add.
Thank you.
I actually went to the school because I asked the teacher what is going on with her, and when she left the school, the first day I saw her, but the previous day she didn't come. So I asked the teacher, how come she's not in school? And he said, this girl has never done her homework for a whole term. So they called the parents that how come she's not doing the homework. I asked, can I see her report? She was last in the class for the past 1 year. So she is like, so why did she leave the school? Is it because of school fees? They said the school is demanding too much from the child. Like
that's what the parents said.
Yes, like the homeworks and stuff, they don't have time to help the child. And if the school is always going to be on their neck for homework and things, then the child should leave the school. So she actually went to another school. I know the school that she's gone to, so I'm not, as you said, I'll look for her. One time she saw me dropping my child, and the look on her face when she saw my daughter in the car, and we slowed down, and I didn't recognize her. He said, "Auntie," and I was like, "Wow, is this girl?" And she stood there to watch my car go because she saw my daughter in the front seat, and they are best friends. She was the first friend she made when she went to that school. So I followed that, but I was like, I didn't know what to do. Here it's not like outside that you can call social services and all these things. Reporting to the police, hey, I'm raising my child, and somebody says, what have I done? I've not beaten her. We don't have that insight that it's not only beating, that is abuse. This girl, I'm concerned about her future. To be honest, I'm really concerned about her future. But as you said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to look for her and see what else can be done about her situation. Yeah.
Well, I think my concern is the involvement of social welfare in such matters. Outside, in some of the Western countries, those things are very easy to handle because the child itself can make a report, and then social welfare services will come in. But in our country, it looks like social welfare is cut off. Parents don't even know that those services are available to intervene in such matters, just as she said. But I think that these are things that we need to highlight on in the churches, that people become aware that there are services, institutions that can assist in some of these areas, so that when we have such challenges, we can make references to them to continue. Because once a child lives in that environment, from what she said, my suspicion is that probably this woman has another man in her life, and maybe she's somebody who's looking for a husband or looking for a man. She's found one, so whatever the guy is saying now, she must follow it, and it's affecting the child. And because the child is not his, he doesn't care whatever happens to the child. In such situations, we need intervention of social welfare immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, as you're talking about child, I was thinking about those of us whose children are grown. Are we talking about both young adults, middle adults, children, toddlers, or what? So that we will not take ourselves out of the scene. That all abuse is not just defined to certain class of children, but all ages as we go on. Okay. And the second one was like the dog was saying, some words are also managing people from far. Some are grandchildren, and their parents are not taking care of them, and we are taking care of them. And so at times you see that abuse is there. So once I have to inform my sister who is taking care of them to go to human rights. Because the father is not taking care of them. So I gave all the Ghanas. You went there. It affected one of their twins. It affected one of them. One of them was not doing well in school, but the other was doing well in school. But now the senior one has gone to senior high. The other one was dropped, and now it's picking up because we are taking the challenge. So the first one was caution, this one was contribution. Yes.
Thank you. Children refers to anybody from age 0 to 18. So that is what I mean by child abuse. However, when I started, my definition of abuse didn't have any age limitation. Regardless of the person's age, abuse is abuse. I focused on children because today is Children's Day, and so we are talking about child abuse. But that doesn't mean that if somebody is older and if the person is older, it is not child abuse, it is abuse. If the person is a child who is being abused, then it is child abuse. Regardless of the age, however, abuse is abuse. The impact is still far-reaching, and attention has to be given to it. I see people who are currently in the university who are being abused by their parents, or parents, step-parents, uncles, aunties they are living with, sometimes grandparents, as you rightly said. And so really there's no age limit to abuse. The only difference is the label that you are giving it. If it's abuse happening to a child, then it's child abuse. If it's abuse happening to somebody who is not a child, it is abuse. But regardless of whether it is child abuse or general abuse, the impacts and what you can do to help them still apply.
Okay, I want to find out about the verbal abusement. Maybe parents, we have said a lot about your child. Your child is home. So how will you correct it, or how will you work at it?
Okay. One way is to undo the things that you said. Apologize for the things that you said and the impact it's had. And if you use your words to tear them down, use those same words to build them up. So if you've said things like, you are not beautiful, you will not achieve anything in life, why are you always failing? Use those same words to offer encouragement. You're looking good in the dress that you're wearing. You tried and you didn't succeed. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. Keep trying. Eventually you will succeed. I know that you are putting in the effort and you're struggling, but struggle is part of learning experience. So don't let the fact that you are struggling make you discouraged. Continue to put in the effort, and hopefully you would see the impact that you want to see. Words can be used to build, and they can also be used to tear down. What I would say though is, even as you are using your words to build up, mean what you are saying. Because if you don't mean what you are saying, it can be perceived that this person is saying this just so that I'll not feel bad. They actually don't mean what they are saying, and that can come with its own issues. Why are they lying to me? Right? So use your words to offer encouragement, use it to build up, use it to undo the things that you've said. Sometimes sit down and have a conversation with them. These were the things that I used to say to you when you were growing up. How has it impacted you? You can see from if your child is timid, you'll know. If your child is not very confident, you'll know. Sometimes the timidity and lack of confidence come out in bullying. And so you have somebody who is bullying another person because they've been abused for so long, they feel bad about themselves. And what they use to feel good is to make other people feel bad. So if you are with someone who also likes to who likes to belittle people, it should give you the impression that something is going on. It might not look like a lack of confidence, but anytime you see that somebody is constantly belittling people, there's work to be done. And so it's the same words you used while you were tearing them down that you can use to build them up.
Please, is peer pressure abuse?
Peer pressure is not, it depends on what type of pressure it is, right? When we talk about peer pressure, there is before I answer this question, let me ask you, when you say peer pressure, what do you mean? I want to know what you mean by peer pressure, and then I'll answer. Hi. When you say peer pressure, what does it mean to you? There's no right or wrong answer. I just want to know what,
Just generally.
just generally. Okay. So peer pressure in itself is not abuse. If your friends are making you do something, so um, if your friends are saying things to you that make you feel bad about yourself, it may not be abusive. You just need to tell yourself that I need to move myself out of this association. They can make you do things, but they may not directly be abusing you. Does that answer your question? So, for instance, your friends can say certain things to you that make you feel bad about yourself. Your friends can encourage you to engage in bad practices like substance abuse. If somebody is encouraging you to engage in substance abuse, that in itself is not abuse, but what you are doing is abuse. If your friends, I don't think your friends would be physically beating you, right? So they might put you in certain situations, they might act in ways that could impact the way you see yourself, the way you behave, but I wouldn't actively say that peer pressure is abuse.
Thank you. I want to go back in time. Several years ago, I was in the UK studying, and there was this issue of child abuse. They used an institution that was or is still located in Greenwich. Things that came out from that institution suggest that majority of individuals who happened to be in prison were people who were abused during their childhood. I see this trend in many, many places that I have been to. I have been involved in the prison sector for several years, but I have not come across any documented paper showing in detail why people are jailed and what their backgrounds happen to be. I've been to the social welfare. I've worked closely with them before. This human rights organization in town, they don't have detailed documents. Madam, do you have some documents on matters like this?
Are you asking for, maybe for want of a better word, epidemiological studies that are looking at the number of people in prison and why they are in prison?
Yes.
I cannot speak to that. I haven't seen it. However, I do know that some studies have been conducted looking at what led them to prison. So, for instance, for the people that are in prison, what is their, what type of psychological experiences are they having, or what type of traumatic experiences do they have? And if my memory serves me right, studies show that children who go through abuse have certain psychological issues. And because of those psychological issues, they act in certain ways that end up leading them to prison. So, for instance, somebody is abused, the person has anger issues because of the abuse or because of the trauma that they experienced. And because of that anger, they enter into a fight or they join gangs. And when they get caught, they end up in prison. Or people who use hard drugs to cope with the trauma that they've been through. And then they are caught using those drugs and then they are sent into prison. Or people who are bullies because of the kind of upbringing that they had. And that bullying leads to them abusing other people, and because of that, they are arrested and taken into prison. And so, yes, there is some correlation between the childhood experiences that people have, the behaviors that they exhibit, and then it leading them into prison.
So my question has got to do is two ways. Children who are growing up in homes where the parents are abusive to each other. So where cases where you find the father abusing the mother or being violent to the mother, or the mother being abusive or violent towards the father, what is the impact on the kids that are growing, and how can these children be helped in situations like this?
Okay. The human makeup is very interesting. Two people can be in the same environment and have very different outcomes. Someone can be in an abusive home, and that becomes the person's norm. This is how husband treats wives. This is how wives treat husbands. And so they go on into their own lives, and what they see is what they are doing. Another person can be in the same environment and tell themselves that I don't want this for myself. And so in choosing a life partner, they are intentional about the choices that they make. Can the kind of relationship that parents have impact the children? Yes, several times over. Because if God parents children, if the parents are not okay, majority of the time, the children too will not be okay. There are times that the parents are actively taking care of their children, but then because of the tension in the house, the children are not okay emotionally. The parents might not be directly abusing the child, but the being in that environment has some emotional and psychological impact on the children. What can you do for them? You may not be able to take them out of that family, but you can be somebody that they look up to. Someone who would be an example for them, to let them know that what is happening at home is not the norm everywhere. If it's a situation where you can talk to the parents to let them know the impact of what they are doing on their child, perhaps that could work, so that if you and your spouse are having issues, do it in the absence of the children. If you want to have a conversation about something, for one, be mindful of how you talk to your spouse. Secondly, if you do have to talk to your spouse, don't do it in the presence of the children. Now, apart from that, as parents, if you have to work on yourselves as well, so that you are not relating to your spouse based on your own past experiences. So if there are things that you need to heal from as parents, you can do that. When it comes to psychological issues, thankfully, there is no age limit. We can't say that once you hit 50, you cannot heal anymore. Once you put in the work, anything that has happened, you can heal from. So you put in the work, you get the healing, and then your children would also go on to live better lives. But ideally, what you can do for the children is to be, if you can talk to the parents so that they are mindful of the impact of what they are doing on their children, do that. If you cannot talk to the parents, but you can be a role model of sorts in the lives of the child, so that their templates of marriage is not only what they are seeing their parents doing. Their template of adult behavior is not only what they are seeing their parents do, but they are seeing good examples from other places. It brings a sort of balance to their life, so that when they think about marriage, when they think about how to interact with people, it's not just, this is what I've seen my parents do. It's, I've seen my parents behave this way, and this is the impact. I've also seen this person behave this way, and this is the impact. I think I want to go with this other one and not what my parents have done. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for your attention. Let's talk.
Miss Catherine, for sharing your knowledge with all of us. And thank you, everyone, for making time this afternoon. I believe that as we go back home and for the days ahead, we'll be able to identify cases of abuse among children, and we'll be in a better position to respond to them. We'll see you next quarter for another educative topic. This Saturday, please, a gentle reminder, let's bring all our children for our day's camp. A promise to be very educative and then interesting. Let's share a word of prayer. Our God in heaven, we thank you so much for this morning. We thank you for the opportunity to learn about the children that, Lord, you have entrusted into our care. Lord, we pray that these words, you water them, you give us insight, and you help us even as we train these children in your way. In Jesus' name, I will pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Thank you.